Hello, Blizzard fans! This is FalconPaladin coming to you with yet another daily Blizzard upload. This is a game between CranK and on Orbital Shipyard. CranK is a professional Starcraft 2 player from Korea. He plays random on the Legacy of the Void ladder, which I really appreciate because it is very interesting and very brave. In the description, I have linked to CranK's YouTube page and Twitch stream. Go ahead and follow him on both of those. He is very entertaining. I promise you it is not a wasted subscription. In the bottom left of Orbital Shipyard, we have the red Terran player who went random. It is now CranK. And in the top right of Orbital Shipyard, we have the blue Terran player. It is boringly has chosen Terran for this match. Does not have the bravery exhibited by CranK, and therefore is under a little bit more shame than his opponent. So CranK did main Protoss. Or does main Protoss? I don't know. All I know is that he's incredibly creative. He does weird things with different builds. He does go random. He's very strong in all three of the races. And honestly, if I came up against him on the ladder and he went random, I would just die. Like, no matter what it was, Zerg, Protoss, Terran, I wouldn't have a chance against him. Scouting out is, recognizing he doesn't know what his opponent is, so he's going to go ahead and see exactly what's going on, whether it's Protoss or Zerg or Terran. A mirror matchup like himself. He's going to go ahead and see very clearly that it is a Terran on the other side, but he's not going to get any more information than that because of the wall off here at the supply depot. Reaper coming out here from CranK, going possibly for a Reaper expand orbital command coming up for both players. The Reaper's not going to be out in time to kill this SCV unless it just sits here like a moron. There it is, backing out, recognizing this barracks is building something. Probably going to be something that can kill me. Time to get out. Factory coming up at the same time. Both players are getting that factory. Reaper for CranK, Marine for So not planning on being very aggressive, more of a defensive play here. Yep, getting Marines up on this ground, a place where the Reaper is likely to go. So knows what he's doing, that's for sure. SCV running on out. Where is that Reaper? There it is. The Reaper hanging out on this ledge, not being aggressive at all. I'm not kind of surprised by that. I figured CranK would send this across the map to try to kill what it can kill, but in the end, it's kind of a defensive Reaper, which is weird. Is he waiting for the Reaper to come out from With the way both players are positioning their units on this high ledge right above the mineral line at that natural expansion or third base, it leads me to believe that's a good place to defend against Reaper attacks. So make note, subscribers, if you're playing against a Terran, put your units to defend against Reapers right here. By this point, CranK says, alright, nothing has showed up, trying to move out and stop again. I don't know what CranK is doing. Let's check out what's going on back at the base. We have a factory building a couple Hellions. We're going to go for a Hellion Reaper type push. Tech lab on that barracks, though, starport at the same time. So here comes a bit of a push here with two Reapers and a Hellion, one more Hellion in production. Starport just about to finish against 3 Marines. Hellions do pretty well against Marines if they're microed properly. The Reapers might try to kind of sneak on into that natural, kind of hop up here and run past. Kind of scary to hop up, though. Poking up anyway. CranK is brave. Going for this supply depot. Will take forever to kill it. Widowmine coming to burrow as well. KD8 charge. Oh, is it enough to kill? No, almost killed that Widowmine. That was amazing. Down to 8 hit points. The KD8 charge did go off, but in the end, it wasn't enough to kill the Widowmine. And just trying to kill the supply depot all by themselves. KD8 charge again, blasting the Marines into the air. It does do 2 damage. Losing one of the Reapers there, so here it is. KD8 charge explodes after a short delay, dealing 10 damage and knocking back nearby units. So again, 10 damage doesn't seem like a lot, but Marines only have 45 hit points, so it can do a lot more than that. Are we going to kill this supply depot? A couple more slashes with these Hellions, and yes, we do get the supply depot. CranK is happy with that. Moves right on in. Very bravely indeed, but gets surrounded by some Marines. This Hellion trying to kill what it can before it dies, as well as this Reaper. The Reaper staying alive a lot longer than I thought it would. Can we actually get some SCV kills as well? If we micro properly, we could, but no, the SCV does manage to retreat. KD8 charge, boom. Blast people back, but now they have support of the medevac. And can we escape? Good angles again, getting behind this mineral line, killing an SCV. Are we going to get it? Yes, killing an SCV, but all the units are now dead for CranK except for this Banshee. CranK coming around the left side, going to try to get some juicy kills on this area. Widowmine burrowing itself, trying to catch that Banshee, but misses. Comes to the wrong place, goes after the SCV, building the engineering base at the last second, gets it. But there's a Viking. The Viking is going to shut this down pretty darn hard. Banshee does finish with 3 kills. but is forced to retreat in the face of that Viking pressure. Are we building another Banshee? We are. Still going Banshees. CranK, nope, canceling, saying, Vikings are out. This is not for me. We're going to actually lift off the starport and go do something else with it. I'm not sure what the intent is there. Getting Marines of his own. More and more barracks, tanks, a Marine Marauder tank push, possibly? A couple more Vikings on the way for Hump. CranK is continuing, getting the +1 infantry weapons. Getting another orbital command back here. A little bit late. This one's been up for a while for Hub, but CranK is up 31 to 27 total harvesters, which is good for him. Here comes a drop with 6 Marines and a Widow Mine. Fairly standard stuff. We see this in a lot of matchups, especially against Zerg, though, it feels like, from the Terrans. So Hung, try to get some pressure in there on CranK as well. Flying in no man's land. Nobody's really scouting this. Nobody has claimed it. No one's going to see this coming. So the answer for CranK is going to have to be, how well can you deal with this, right? And here we come. Going to unload right here at the natural base. Nothing to defend against it. Immediate pull of the SCVs, using one SCV to draw the attack from the Widow Mine. Excellent play. Unfortunately, the SCVs getting the gas are now all completely dead, but there's a tank. There is definitely a tank, and the pickup and the lift off by We are now building a missile turret. Will that complete before the Widow Mine goes off again is the question. What's the cooldown on this? 29 seconds. Missile turrets build in about 18 seconds. So yeah, this will come up just in time. The Marines trying to kill the siege tank, but getting repaired and barely going to get that Widow Mine. Yes, got the Widow Mine before it could finish on the cooldown. And the Widow Mine has a single kill. Excellently held there by CranK. Has to be disappointed in what is he able to do. Actually, he's coming back for more. He says, you know what? I can do more here. I can make this happen. Loading once again, but guess what? Marines and tanks are better than just Marines. Getting shots off on that medevac as well. Can't quite kill it. Good use of the angles by to make that medevac survive just a little bit longer. So, looking at the harvester count, it's 37 to 36. Looking pretty good. CranK as well, doing a great job keeping up that SCV content. Production as well. Stim being researched by both players. +1 infantry attack just about to finish here for CranK. And are we actually, do we have that for is the question. Another drop back here again. Coming back again with no upgrades. Killing an SCV, killing another SCV. The SCVs are being forced to try to attack this. And it's going to be hard to do. They're going to be able to do it, but you're going to lose so many workers, CranK. Be so careful. And bam, finally, the threat is ended. But CranK has lost 14 SCVs. That's way more than I thought he would, but he is pushing. He has Marines. He has tanks. He has medevacs. He's going to try to make this work. Setting up does get stanganned by who has the high ground advantage and 3 tanks as well. Yikes, that is pretty scary stuff. Oh, getting a couple splash damage hits off on those Marines. Well played indeed. Are we going to land here again? Another shot possibly? No, not in range. Just barely not in range. The range is right here. The Marines are outside it. They are safe. But using this for defensive purposes, I kind of like it. Look at that. Dropping the siege tanks, letting shots go off, and then picking up and backing out. Just very, very intelligent play here from We'll have to see if CranK can actually make this work. He's trying to get some pressure on. He loads up the dropships with a tank and a few Marines in that one as well. Here comes the Marine push, though. Tanks on the high ground. Going to try to make this work. Tanks killing stuff there. Tank on tank. All the tanks are now dead for CranK, but his army up here in the natural is completely unopposed. The Marines are forced to retreat. The SCVs, rather, forced to retreat. The Marines do stand in. They're going after this command center. Are they going to kill it? And yes, it's going to die. I have to imagine. Trying to be repaired desperately, but it explodes in the air. Marines coming to try to deal with this. They get melted as well. Tank on the high ground gets focused by the Marines at the same time. Stimmed Marines with that +1 trying to chase down the medevacs. Are they killing it? Yes, they kill one of the medevacs carrying the tank. Going after add-ons on these barracks. They get this. They get the tech lab. Marines trying to stand in and fight. A couple tank shots do turn the tide there, and CranK is forced to retreat, losing a medevac there as well, but he backs on out. Tank on the high ground for now has 3 kills, but dropping Marines right on top of it. Unfortunately, inside that minimum range for the tank, and it ends up dead. Woo! Pretty intense back and forth there. Units lost tab. 14 SCVs have died. 18 SCVs for though. He has a lot more. Okay, 4 more, not that much more. But 3 tanks have died, 4 tanks, so pretty even so far. 28 to 38 Marines. Very much a war of attrition at this point. 91 to 85 total supply, 47 to 39 total harvesters. CranK has been able to kind of keep up on that SCV production using the mules very effectively, more than his opponent. So is looking a little bit vulnerable here. But the Marine tank is working out for him so far. We're going to try to get in here with this attack. Unfortunately for CranK, there are Vikings patrolling here. Very difficult for medevacs to get past Vikings. They just have the range, they have the vision. They hit pretty hard as well for those flying units. So both players are just hanging out. I think we're macroing up. We're producing, that is infantry armor level 1. Yep, for both players. They're getting that armor to help them survive those tank hits. Combat shield as well for and an armory coming up as well for CranK. That's probably just going to be for the extra upgrades for the bio units. I don't think we're going to see anything like a Thor or anything like that. Liberators, again, would be good. Maybe some Liberators. I don't know. Oh, yep. There's the drop. Got taken out by those Vikings patrolling back and forth just as nonchalantly as can be. A push. Can't quite decide what to do. Poor scouting Marine gets destroyed, gets splattered on the ground there. A scan from CranK saying, all right, a lot of Marines are moving around, but I didn't see any tanks, so that's weird. So yeah, this looks like the current meta for TVT. Marine tank, except the medevacs are picking up the tanks and using them to transport around. Because the nice thing about Legacy of the Void is that you can pick up tanks in siege mode and drop tanks in siege mode. It used to be the tank could fire immediately upon hitting the ground in that siege mode, but instead it was a little bit overpowered, and so Blizzard knocked it down to where it's like 1 or 2 seconds before they can actually fire after they land. So you give the opponent a chance to respond instead of just drop fire, pick up, which is so hard to deal with. Reminds me of the old Reaver shuttle micro back in the vanilla Starcraft, where the Reaver was very slow, hit very hard, kind of like siege tanks, but the shuttle was fast for Protoss, and it could pick up the Reaver, drop fire, pick up, run away, drop fire, pick up, run away. And it was super effective in the early game for the harassment. I mean, entire games were won or lost based on that Reaver micro. So in the end, that was pretty much it. The Reaver obviously did not make its way into StarCraft 2, although the Disruptor kind of does fill that role. Haven't seen Disruptors very much, though, in the games that I've cast recently. I'm not sure if Protoss don't like them anymore, if they've been nerfed accordingly, or maybe nerfed too much. I really don't know. But here comes a push here by heading out along the left side. We have Marines scouting here for CranK, so very, very smart. Both players do have those 3 bases. 136 to 158 total supply. CranK looking very, very hefty on that mark. +1/+1 as well as combat shield and stim. These Marines are looking very, very formidable indeed. The tank count is usually pretty important here. 7 tanks for CranK, 4 tanks for but does have 2 Vikings, which could matter here, although they're not really going to participate in the big battle, I don't think, since they're patrolling back and forth on the top right quadrant of the map. A big Marine enclave. What am I trying to say here? Enclosure. Either way, a bunch of Marines do kill those rocks. Marine dies. Poor Marine. Just gets shot all to death. So both players doing the dance, right? They don't really want to commit. They're like, okay, I have a big army, but guess what? The other player has a big army too. Let me get into a good position here. I don't really want to commit. Dropping the tanks on the high ground, getting some splash off, and going for it. No, thought about it, then backed out. Thought about it, backed out, taking some shots on the tanks of his own. This is going to be the killing ground, I have to think. I mean, just the sound of medevacs healing overhead. And is CranK going to pick up and move out here? It looks like he might. He might just pick up and move right on out. Not entirely sure what his master plan is. I don't think he liked that engagement. The high ground with these tanks was really problematic for him, but it's kind of hard to assault this third base without dealing with high ground tanks, just because this base is on the high ground. So, coming back around to the bottom side, again, it is so rare to see players kill this debris. It just doesn't really ever happen. Scouting Marine, trying to see if there's a base down here, but he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it. Instead, he dies before he can check for the presence of a 4th base for CranK, and there is one. Is falling behind rapidly. CranK is maxed out with 59 workers. His Marines do have the +2 attack, +2 armor on the way at the same time, continuing to make tanks, continuing to make Marines, and make barracks to keep up that Marine production. And individual Marines have pretty much died left and right here, but we haven't really had a big battle. 42 Marines have died for CranK and 41 for So that's actually pretty close. I am fairly impressed with that. Lifting up again, continuing to lift up these tanks, making use of the mobility of the medevacs and the power of the tanks. It is a match made in heaven for Terran players everywhere. But, well, again, nobody really wanting to commit. CranK might be waiting for this +3 attack to finish. Is that only +2? Only +2 on the way for Definitely behind in the upgrade department. Concave, that's what I was trying to say. a big concave of Marines, and landing, getting some shots off, but again, just not really committing. Red versus blue, blue versus red. Here's the line of demarcation. Here's the no man's land from World War I. Nobody wants to cross it because they will die because there are tanks on the ground. Both constantly scanning each other to see what's up, and it's just enough to scare them. Are we flying in anyway, though? CranK trying to find an angle. Does find an angle to get some free shots off on those Marines, forcing them back. Another couple shots off, again, using the medevacs to spot, and the Marines come right on in, trying to kill all of these tanks, target firing them all. Marines from coming up to deal with the rest of them, but backing out. Oh, this small group tried to retreat. Oh, bad pathing there on those Marines. They should have gone this way, but instead they came around on the low ground and got massacred. CranK looking very, very powerful in this spot indeed. Oh, look at these healings. Yeah, all right. So good healing there. +3 just about to finish as well for CranK. Gonna make these Marines just little gods of death as far as I'm concerned. And here we come again, moving on up, target firing down the tanks, going against the Marines as well, using tanks of his own in the back lines. These tanks are still alive in the back, but the Marines are just too powerful. They come right on through. They push through Huz, getting onto this upper ground as well, slowly whittling down the numbers of the army. These two Marines are left. They're stranded. They're going to try to do something, but tanks explode them instead, pushing up to this high ground. CranK feels it. He wants to step on the throat of his opponent, win the game right now, and he does. Calls the GG. CranK is victorious, and has left the game. So, pretty masterful exhibition of the Terran army there by CranK. Just had the upgrade advantage, had the tank numbers, had the positioning as well. I was really impressed down here, I think it was, where he moved the tanks up on the left side, got some splash damage up on the tanks, forced them to move, and then moved his Marines up on the left side as well to kill a bunch of those tanks. In the end, the amount of tanks lost was only 8 tanks for CranK, but Hull lost 13, which I really think made the big difference in the end there. Again, as well as the upgrades right here, +2/+2. And actually, did we have, where are some Marines here? Okay, +2 is +2 as well for Hull, so fairly even. I guess the tanks were probably the deciding factor, but regardless, pretty amazing game. Please check out CranK on YouTube and on Twitch, both, again, very entertaining follow indeed. So, this has been FalconPaladin with yet another Daily Blizzard upload. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you like what you saw and what you heard today. You can catch me on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, all at /FalconPaladin. And until next time, as always, thank you so much for watching, and you take care of yourself.